Hello, my name is Nicole. So today I am going to be sharing my life with you guys. I am starting the carnivore diet. Yep. So I actually have been on the carnivore diet for 6 days now. Um, but let me share with you first, I suppose, why I'm doing this. I am overweight. I started this at 193 pounds, although that's not the highest I got to. But that's just kind of where I've been sitting for a little while. I've never been an overweight person until I started having babies. My whole life, I'd always kind of fluctuated weights a little bit, but I was never fat, I guess you'd say. Like, that was just never me. But my body type has been to hold some pounds and lose some pounds, depending. I've always dealt with what I believe to be PCOS basically my whole life, I think, since I have been cycling, I suppose you could say. I never had periods that were regular. They were always really, really heavy, and I could never keep track of them. Now, however, I was never taught how to keep track of them either. My home life was pretty disruptive. My parents were divorced from each other 2 times. My mom was divorced from my stepdad to get back with my dad, and there was just a whole lot of drama, a lot of craziness going on, and a lot of mental health issues on the part of I believe to be both of my parents, although one of them's only been formally diagnosed. Um, and I basically raised myself. We didn't eat healthy food. My mom cooked, but it was all from a box or a can or frozen or things like that. Just the standard American diet. But once my mom left to get married, I decided to live with my dad and we ate pizza rolls for dinner. And I was alone by myself all the time. So I was driving and I was going to get, KFC and all the things that I possibly could. And I'd sit there with like a hot cocoa packet and I just would eat the hot cocoa right out of the packet, that kind of a thing. And I never gave it much thought because nutrition was never talked about. It was just food is food and, it is what it is. So that's just the way that I kind of grew up. And it started to bite me in the butt when I got to be an adult because you don't have the same type of metabolism. Now, I wasn't eating a ton back then because I was busy. I had a life, I had friends, I was engaged in school and church and all of those things. So it's not like I just sat at home eating all day. Okay. I didn't have an opportunity to do that, although I might have. I might have ate all day if I was home all day. And food was always that's just what I did. I mean, we just ate. So I'm sure you guys understand what I'm talking about. Then when I started to get to be an adult, I around the age of 22, 23. Yeah, probably when I met my husband at 20, I was 23 when I met him. Um, and I started to really keep track of my cycles. I learned how to do natural family planning, which is a method of birth control or conception, but it's basically tracking your cycles using your temperature, your fertility signs, all of that. And you can really learn a lot about your body doing that. And then I really got to see, okay, my cycles are off. Like I was having 45-day cycles, from start to finish and all of that. And the norm is 28, 32 days ish. And so it was hard for me to tell when I had ovulated. And so when my husband and I got married, I was convinced I had PCOS. Um, we went through some traumatic events right after we got married. We left a cold kind of a thing, and so but I got really into healthy eating. I had learned for the first time in my life what real food was. And I got into the Weston A. Price form of eating, traditional methods of cooking and preparing things, making bone broths and sourcing good ingredients, local foods, and eating bone marrow and all of that. And doing that, I was able to get pregnant with my firstborn. And that's when things just kind of started going crazy. So when I was pregnant, I uh, lost about 20 pounds in my first trimester. And I was already thin. I mean, I was probably at my highest when I got pregnant. I was 145 pounds. And that was because I moved down to where my husband lived and we went out to eat all the time. Okay, so then I got up to 145 pounds. But I quickly lost that after we got married and I started doing the Weston A. Price way of eating. And so, but I lost about 15 to 20 pounds in about 16 weeks because I just couldn't keep any food down at all. And once I was able to start eating again, I was in my second trimester, like well into my second trimester. And I started to notice I was having a lot of emotional instability and I just chalked it up to I'm pregnant. Like that's what pregnant people do. And at that time, I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. I didn't even have a primary care doctor. I was doing a midwife home birth. All of that. Like we were in a new area. We didn't know anybody and I'm not close to my mom, especially at that point. And she wouldn't have known anyway, like she's not at all a healthy eater or healthy lifestyle person. I grew up very sedentary. Both of my parents are very sedentary. We didn't do sports. We didn't do all of that. If I had to do anything, it was by myself. So it's not something that it was instilled in us to be active or productive or really anything. So I started to notice I had a lot of emotional instability. I would fly off the handle about everything. And also in my pregnancy, my mom and I got into a huge falling out. She has a lot of mental health issues and she disowned me because I was emotionally unstable, and something that she had done completely set me off. And for the first time in my life, I just went, blah, this is what I think about you. And it wasn't pretty. It was awful. And it was very wrong of me. I should have had more self-control, all of that. But I just couldn't not, right? When you have things going on like that, there's no amount of self-control in the world that can keep you from word vomiting all over the place. And so I did, and it was wrong of me. But then she went completely off the handle, cut me out of her life, checked herself into a psych ward, changed her phone number, didn't talk to me the rest of my pregnancy, didn't see us even after I had my baby for a while. And it's been a rough road since then. So all that to say, something super traumatic happened, and then I really started to have a lot of emotional issues. And then I had my baby, and I had even more issues where I would start to feel extreme rage, just tons of rage. Like I could be fine 1 second, and then the next something would set me off, and I'd be hitting the wall or breaking things or like cussing. Like the F word is my friend when I'm emotionally unstable, and I'm a Christian and I don't swear. So it was like something would overtake me and I couldn't help it. And it was the littlest things. I was going off on my husband and I was going off on my baby, and it was really scary. And then of course I go, oh no, I'm so paranoid somebody's going to take my child away, because I'm a horrible mom, which I wasn't. I mean, he was just a baby. I wasn't like being aggressive at him or whatever. It was like I would have to put him down and then I'd go destroy things. Okay. It was horrible. And I couldn't sleep at night. It was bad. And that lasted for about 4 years. But about a year and a half after I had my son, I suffered a miscarriage and I went into a complete psychosis. And I didn't tell anybody about it, but I went from being about 120 pounds to gaining 40 pounds in a course of just a few months because I convinced myself that I was still pregnant. And see, I'm gaining weight. I'm pregnant still, right? Like this proves it. Like I don't care what the pee stick says, I'm still pregnant. Look at all the weight I'm gaining. But in reality, my husband would go to work. I'd bake an entire chocolate cake and I'd eat the whole thing before he got home from work. The whole thing. Or maybe I'd leave him a slice or something, but I would eat it all. I would just binge eat, okay? And it was constant donuts, like all the good things. I would just eat, and it was not good. So that's when I started to gain weight, and of course that spirals you into other health problems, right? So I got pregnant again. I had my daughter. And I'm still experiencing this extreme rage all the time and anxiety. And it was horrible. And it wasn't until after she was born, probably about 6 or 7 months after she was born, that I started to have thoughts of everybody would be better off without me. Like I just need to die because I'm no good to anybody. Like everybody's life would be better without me. I provide nothing to them. I'm just a hindrance, right? And that started to scare me. And so my husband called the OBGYN that I had at the time. And over the phone, she prescribed me 20 milligrams of Lexapro, which is the highest dosage of Lexapro. And it overnight, I was a completely different person. Like I was not unstable anymore, or unstable. And I was the mom I wanted to be. I was kind and loving to my children and to my husband, and it was wonderful. It was like a miracle. It really was. And it made me a zombie. Okay. So I was on Lexapro and a zombie and gaining more weight up until just recently, actually. I'm still on Lexapro, but I'll go there in a minute. Now, I did go on the carnivore diet once before. Okay, so back in 2020, in January, I started a keto diet. I learned about keto and intermittent fasting. At that point, my A1C was 5.7, and I started to really freak out about diabetes because everybody in my family has diabetes, and we've had people die because of complications of diabetes. And so I was like, I really need to, I need to do this for not just myself, but for my family. And so I got really hardcore. I read Dr. Jason Fung's book about intermittent fasting. I started listening to Dr. Ken Berry and others talk about, and Saladino talk about the carnivore diet. And I went all in, right? And I quickly lost like 30 pounds. I regulated my cycles. My cycles were 32 days long, almost the entire year of 2020. That's never happened to me before with polycystic ovarian syndrome. Also during that time, so in January, I saw my new OBGYN. Okay, I had been trying to get people to pay attention to me with these issues, doctors to pay attention to me, to listen to me for years. I went to my primary care and I said, there's just something wrong with me. And she said, oh, Nicole, you're getting older. You just need a diet and exercise. And I knew that I had some sort of progesterone deficiency. I knew it because I knew based on my cycles and some other things I was experiencing, like hirsutism, I was getting some whiskers, things like that I had PCOS. I knew I did, but they were very dismissive. They checked my, first of all, my PCP told me I was just too old, and I was like 26. And then my OBGYN at the time was like, well, your cycles really aren't too bad. They're, 45 days. They fluctuate, but they're not horrible. It's not classic PCOS symptoms. And I was trying to tell her, well, I'm trying to do all of this like nutritional intervention, and I didn't have any guidance in that. I was just trying to do it myself. I was trying to do all this nutritional intervention to stabilize that. So it was better than it probably would be if I wasn't doing any of that. But she was very dismissive as well. And so in January of 2020, I saw my current OBGYN, which is amazing. And within 5 minutes of a consultation with him, he was like, well, Nicole, it sounds like you have PCOS. And I was like, yes, yes, it does. Thank you. And he goes, well, you want to go do an ultrasound of your ovaries? We'll see for sure. Yes. So I did an ultrasound he did an ultrasound of my ovaries. 5 minutes later, oh, PCOS, there's your cystic ovaries. And I'm like, thank God, finally I have a diagnosis. And he was very helpful. At that point, I was just on like the keto and I was doing intermittent fasting, but I kind of just started. And he was very supportive of that. He said that is the best thing for somebody with PCOS, which he did blood work and stuff. And I'm insulin resistant. I have metabolic syndrome, all the classic, pre-diabetes things that go on. And he said that's the keto diet is the best diet that I could possibly be on. Like, get rid of all carbs, right? And so I stayed on that, and he also prescribed me some progesterone during my luteal phase. And excuse me, the dog is being noisy. And he prescribed me myoinositol to take. And so I was doing that along with what eventually turned into carnivore shortly after I started keto. And yeah, I mean, it fixed me. I dealt with hypoglycemia my entire life. I would go to school and I would start shaking before lunch. I'd be like, oh, I need food. I need food. And of course that morning, all I either didn't eat anything for breakfast, or I would have like a Carnation instant breakfast or something. I mean, my parents weren't home to get me on the bus. Like I set my own alarm and I woke up, then I went to school, I got on the bus, then I started driving myself and all that. So it's not like I was being fed anything. It was either cereal, Carnation instant breakfast, or nothing. Nobody was checking in on me. So I would go to school and I'd start shaking. And I dealt with that hangry feeling for years, up until 2020, when I started IF and carnivore, and it cured me of my hypoglycemia. And even though I stopped carnivore in 2020 in November because I got pregnant, I stopped carnivore because I have horrible morning sickness and I can't eat, and then carbs took over my life again. I remained cured of hypoglycemia. I still don't have it. I don't get the shakes. I don't get hangry. That's been one of the biggest takeaways from carnivore that I could have had. So I lived the carnivore life from January to November. I had more energy than I'd ever had in my life. I felt good. I had some mental clarity. I started weaning myself off of the Lexapro. I went from 20 milligrams to 5 milligrams, all on my own, which I don't recommend because that's it could be dangerous, but I did, and it worked for me. And then I got pregnant, and then it's all been downhill since then. And I went back up to 20 milligrams of Lexapro because my mental health started to suffer again. And so fast forward, so I went through my pregnancy binging on sweets again, and was gestational diabetes. And then I had my son, and then I went through this horrible depression. I'd never experienced depression before. I'd only experienced anxiety and rage, but I'd never experienced a depression where I couldn't get off the couch. I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't take care of my children. I couldn't take care of the house. I didn't want to take a shower. I laid on the couch for about 4 months and ordered Dunkin' Donuts through Grubhub to be delivered every single day. And my kids ate donuts and breakfast sandwiches from Dunkin' Donuts. It was horrible. Like, this is what I ate every single day for about 4 months. Until I finally was like, I can't take this anymore. I need some help. And I went to see, and then also I didn't talk to a doctor about any of this. I didn't go back to my OBGYN. I didn't do any of that. I didn't even go for my 6-week checkup after I had my baby because of the way I was feeling. I was just so, I couldn't function. And so I finally broke down. I said, I think I need to see a psychiatrist and see what's going on. So I went to a psychiatrist, and she, within 20 minutes, was like, I know what's wrong with you. You have cyclothymia, which is it's on the bipolar spectrum. It's a milder version of bipolar. So I'm not bipolar 1, I'm not bipolar 2, I'm cyclothymia. I'm like way over here. Which is still really depressing, right? And I'm still not like, she didn't say, wow, you can trace these symptoms back. Let's maybe do some blood work on you, see if there's anything going on, or, any of that. It was very much, there's a pill I'm going to give you, and you're going to have to take it for the rest of your life. It's just a matter of fact. Like, you're just going to have to resign yourself that this pill is going to be a part of your life from here on out. And, but it's going to help you, and because bipolar runs in my family and all of that, like, this is what it is. And, just, you're lucky you didn't get a more, severe form yet, because it could turn into that. So I've been taking that. It's called lamotrigine. I've been on 150 milligrams plus Lexapro 5 milligrams for a year now. And yeah, it took me out of my depression. I feel good. I can function for the most part, it's better than it was, but I'm not satisfied. And so I just went and had some blood work done again, and my A1C is back up to 5.7, which I knew it would because I'm just eating carbs, standard American diet. My cholesterol's a little high, which, debatable, whatever. My vitamin D is really low, so now I'm supplementing vitamin D. But I told my and in the meantime, I've had my gallbladder taken out, and I had a kidney stone, all since my third child was born in 2021. So yeah, I feel like my health has been on a spiral down. And I can't complete tasks. So my house is never fully clean, and I've always kept a clean house. It's like I get started on something and then I can't finish it. And I don't like that. I've never been that type of person. So I know that there's some things that need to change, right? So I got my blood work done and I am now, so I got my blood work done, and then I decided it's time to go back to see my OBGYN and get some treatment started for my PCOS, because my cycle started back up. I was breastfeeding, and now my cycle started back up. So I want to know, do I need to be back on progesterone? Do I need, the myo-inositol, all of that? And then also with my A1C being 5.7, my primary care provider was like, your A1C is great, so you just keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, that's pre-diabetic. That's not great. That's horrible. Like, especially with such a strong history of diabetes in my family. My dad has it. My brother has it. My grandma had it. Her parents had it. I mean, it's everywhere. I don't want to be that, but so I was like, okay, so we're going to retest in 3 months, and my A1C is going to be, I'm doing this, right? And so I went back to see my OBGYN last Friday. So that would be 6 days ago. No, 7 days. Yesterday was Friday, so a week before then. So that's what, 8 days? Okay, so anyway, he prescribed me the carnivore diet. Literally, that was his prescription, was the carnivore diet. He wanted me to do a whole bunch more blood labs, so I did those. He gave me another prescription for progesterone, told me to go back on myo-inositol, and then told me to eat as much red fatty meat as I possibly could, because that is what's going to heal me. And not only my body, but my mind. And he said, I opened up to him about all these mental health challenges I've had. And he said to me, Nicole, you do realize that all of these symptoms that you had, especially starting in pregnancy, are classic symptoms of low progesterone. And people with PCOS, women with PCOS tend to have these symptoms as well when their PCOS isn't being treated. And so he said, he looked me in the eyes and he said, I think we're going to be able to help you with this. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so much more hopeful than a psychiatrist saying, you're going to be on this pill for the rest of your life, but you're so lucky that you didn't get worse before you saw me, you know? And so that made me feel so hopeful, which made me go, I really need to do this. I really need to start back the carnivore diet. So wham, bam, I've been on carnivore for 6 days now. Tomorrow will be 1 week. So I want to chronicle my journeys on the carnivore diet. I have some things in the works. I not only want to heal my pre-diabetes, my insulin resistance, my PCOS, all of that. I want to heal my mind. And that really starts with the way you eat. And I've been watching so many videos about this, about how like bipolar and schizophrenia and ADHD and all of these mental health disorders are actually, they're not mental health disorders, they're metabolic disorders, that your mind is, your brain is, it reacts to your metabolic disorder just like the rest of your body does. It's not separate, you know? And so I've been watching videos from Dr. Georgia Ede, Dr. Chris Palmer, and others, and learning that there's all these trials that have been done, thousands, for like the past 100 years. People have known about this, and they've been healing mental disorders, metabolic disorders with the ketogenic diet. And it's amazing to me, right? It's just amazing. And so I watched a YouTube video called, or a YouTube channel called Bipolar Cast, and they interview some of these researchers and doctors who treat mental health disorders with keto, and people who have been treated with keto. And I found a LMHC. I don't really know what that stands for, but she's a therapist that specializes in treating mental health disorders through a ketogenic diet. And I emailed her, and her name is Nicole Laurent, and her website is mentalhealthketo.com. It's a pretty cool website. She's also done a lot of interviews on YouTube. But I like what I see with that. She works with a prescriber because she can't prescribe medication. So she works very closely with you to monitor your symptoms and to help you with the eating and all of that, and therapy, things like that. And then also works closely with your prescriber to say, hey, I think her medication can be tweaked. And so then they do the tweaking. And I contacted her, and on next Saturday, March 11th, I have an interview, a 30-minute interview with her to see if I am a good candidate for her program. And I'm really excited. So I'm going to keep sharing that with you. So all good things to look forward to. And I'm trying to do this YouTube channel also as an accountability to me, maybe an inspiration to you. And I'm excited. I've been on carnivore for 6 days, and I went from 193 pounds. I'm down to 187.6. I didn't weigh myself specifically. I don't remember if it was 193 point whatever. I just know it was 193. So I went from 193 to 187.6 in 6 days. So 6 days. And so that's exciting to me, but also I've been a lot calmer. It is difficult getting back into the adaptation phase of carnivore, where you're not craving the sweets and stuff, but I'm really not. I mean, I haven't had a moment of weakness where I'm like, oh, I gotta have the sugar. Now this isn't my first rodeo. You know, I've done this before, so I think that helps a little bit too. But anyway, so I just wanted to share this with you and come along this journey with me, and I'm excited to see what it's going to look like in 6 months or a year from now, or even a month from now. And hopefully I can be a part of this program with Nicole Laurent and have my medication and everything, like my mental health monitored along with doing this diet. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I needed to say. I think that's it. So once again, let's do this. Let's do this. All right, exciting stuff. Bye.